Hi all. So this is just an introduction to the Sakai site that we've set up, introducing the Sustainable Development Goals, which have been developed by the UN. And so the idea of this site is obviously to advertise these goals and for all of us to start thinking how it applies to our line of work or our field of work, but also to give you this site as a test site for online learning with your students. Maybe you're not feeling very comfortable about the material you've developed. Feel free to use this the first week of lectures just to give you a chance and your students a chance to do some online learning without too much pressure on yourself. Okay, so you can see in Sakai here, Introduction to Sustainable Development Goals. I will post this link in the YouTube video below. And the main thing to focus on the left-hand side is lesson 1, 2, and 3. You can obviously click on this overview and it welcomes the students to the site. The site is freely available to all WITS users. So any student should be able to access it as long as you give them the link. And then they would go to lesson 1 and you can see here it's a reflection. So it says, before you start, let's reflect on the Sustainable Development Goals. It says, write what you think of when you hear these words in the forum below. So maybe you've never dealt with forums before, maybe your students haven't. This is a way to get used to them. And it says here, comment on 2 of your colleagues' thoughts in a constructive manner. So you can see this link below is to the forum, so you click on it and it takes you here to forum week 1. What comes to mind when you hear the word Sustainable Development Goals? I must admit, forums I don't find very intuitive. I don't super like the layout, so it was also to force me to learn how to use forums. And you can see it says no messages posted here. So I'm going to click here on start a new conversation. And so anybody here can start a new conversation. So I'm going to say Steph's thoughts on the Sustainable Development Goals. And so I can write something here. And I mean, I'll just say what first comes to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is that these are important for developing countries. Maybe not so much first world countries. Okay, and I'm probably completely wrong about that, but that's okay. Forums are for discussions, not for bashing down people's ideas. So I click post, and you can see here there's now a new conversation in here. Steph's thoughts on Sustainable Development Goals. And so obviously this commenting on your friend relies on other people having posted here. So let's pretend I'm not Steph, and I click here and I go, oh, Steph says this. So I would click on reply to comment, and I would constructively comment here. That is interesting, but I do feel they are important for developed countries too. Oh, and at least it tells you when you spelled wrong. You would click post. Sorry, my internet's a bit slow. Okay, and so it's taken us back to the forum, and I can see here Stephanie's thoughts, what she said, and what this other person has replied. So you can see here, this is kind of like the folder within a folder, like you would have on your computer. What's it called? Like the address of where this is. And I can click back here to get back to the forum, and you can see here I've posted, and you can see there's 2 messages here. So obviously I've said something twice, or I've said something and somebody else has replied there. So you as a lecturer can go in and interact with your students about that. Okay, so very unfortunately now, the only way of getting back to your lesson that I can figure out is you come and you click here. Oh wait, it says return to the presentation. Ah, okay, so you clicked up top there. I'll show you again. Return to the presentation up here. And you come back here, we've just done number 1, which was reflecting in the forum, and number 2 says video and forum introduction. So now watch the video to learn about the goals, pay attention to which ones are most important to you. You can see here this is on YouTube though, so this is going to be a problem for students with limited data. I don't think it's particularly legal that we would download this and then upload it to Sakai, or maybe that is a possibility. I would have to seek legal advice on that. So students would watch this, they could choose a low resolution at least so it doesn't use that much data, and it says in the forum below, start a conversation answering the question, which development goals do I think are most important and why? Comment on two of your colleagues' conversation in a constructive manner. So I'm going to look through these development goals and decide which are the two most important in my mind. I'm then going to click on this forum link here, and you can see, it's taken us to the wrong forum. We were going to have to fix that, but it should, if I go to forums here, week 1. Okay, so I think the link is wrong there. I will go and fix it now. It should go to this forum here. You can see this is the first one we dealt this is the first one we dealt with. What comes to mind when you hear the word sustainable development goals? You can see there's 2 messages here. It should link to this one. Which sustainable development goals is most important to you? You can see there's no messages here. So here I'm going to go in and I'm going to start a new conversation. Steph's most NB sustainable development goals, and below here I'm going to forget the numbers here, so I'm going to say number 1 is no poverty and number 2 is zero hunger. I'm going to say number 1 no poverty and number 2 no hunger. It would actually be quite nice to do a poll here, so to get people to vote, because then you could see what different people have voted for. So maybe I will go and swap this out for a poll, or add in a poll here. So I'm going to click post. Again, might take a little bit of time, and you can see it there and someone can go post on it. So I've lost this link at the top because I had to go in a roundabout way, so I'm going to go back to lesson 1. And you can see here that we have finished lesson 1. And so what we really did here, and I could add a checklist at the bottom, is I've looked at my preconceptions about the Sustainable Development Goals, and then I've actually learnt about them, and then had a personal opinion on which I think were very important. Okay, so lesson 2, I'm going to click on lesson 2 here. It says reading intentions of the SDGs. This week you're required to read through the history of developing the Sustainable Development Goals. So how did they come about? You can see there's a hyperlink here. Summarize some of the important dates that stood out to you in the comment box below. So I'm going to click here. It's going to take me to a website. Obviously the students will land up paying for linking to this website. Maybe something we could do is actually just download this info and put it in resources and link it to that. That's probably a better idea. And you can see it just talks about the history, starting in 1992 all the way up until present times. So the idea is that students read through, they click on add comment here, and then they write down the dates that stood out for me and write them there and save, and you can go back and look through the students' comments. So save. Okay. And number 2 says investigating one of the goals, which once you're on the web page, so the web page we've just visited, scroll over some of the tiles to view their descriptions, which we've seen already. You can see under good health and well-being, it says ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. And so it says now we will investigate goal 4, which is quality education. Click on the link below and complete the activity. While reading through the information, keep in mind the space we work in and the African context. I'm going to click here on quality education. It takes us to a further link where it says look at the infographic below, and number 2, why it matters document below. So this is this infographic. It shows us in terms of quality education, 617 million children and adolescents lack minimum proficiency in reading and mathematics. So several different statistics we can look through. Down here it also talks about why it matters. So why does education matter? How much progress have we made so far? Are there groups that have more difficult access to education? Very important in South Africa. without high data costs, and what can we do? So several different things. And so now below here it says, and there's some questions for you to ask. So it says, do you know someone over the age of 15 years old who cannot read or write? So you would click yes or no. It's anonymous. You can see a poll of what other people have answered. It says here, what percentage of South Africans over the age of 15 cannot read or write? So you've got to guess here. I assume if you do 15 and submit answer, let's see what it says. Sorry, you have to scroll down. So it says, good try, but a 2015 study showed that 5% of South Africans over the age of 15 still cannot read. In the UK, the rate is 1%. And it gives a reference here. List at least one everyday activity you cannot participate in if you cannot read or write. For example, reading a label on a food item. So trying to get people to realize how difficult it would be without literacy. Okay, so they would do this activity, and now they would go back to lesson 2. Sorry, it's a bit of scrolling around. And now the assignment. Now that you've read through the infographics and why does it matter for SDG 4, and you've considered which SDG stands out the most for you, answer the following questions. The relevancy of SDG 4 to you, the relevancy in the South African context. Do you think the goals exist independently? Which other goals would depend on SDG 4 being achieved? Elaborate on your answer. So really, this isn't for marks, so students can commit or not commit as much as they want. I've said minimum of 200 words. It is a lot of questions. They can answer as much as they want. It's just to get them going. And to have a practice here with the lesson, with the assignment option. So if you click here, it takes them actually to the assignment tab here, and there's an assignment link to this. It gives you details about this, number of submissions that students can do, etc., etc. This is some instructions on it, and students can either write their submission here, or they can attach a document over here, and they can submit. When you do assignments, you would decide if you want people to it to be checked against Turnitin. Because this is such a relaxed assignment, we did not choose this option. So going back to lesson 2, once they've done this assignment, it is finished. They can then go on to lesson 3. For some reason, this doesn't expand it automatically. You've got to click here. So it says, welcome to lesson 3. Today's lesson is all about reflecting and deciding for yourself which goals are important for you and your discipline, course, or faculty. Choose one of the goals that are important to you. Read up the infographics and why it matters. So you would click here to read up about it. Answer the following question on the goal in the comment box below. Which goal is important to you? You could write here. Why is it important? Why is it relevant to South Africa? Which one thing can you do in your daily life or workplace to help us reach this goal? And then the last part of lesson 3, which is the last part of this very brief Sakai course, says to support further learning into the SDGs, we urge you to sign up for this MOOC. So it's an online course through FutureLearn about achieving sustainable development goals, and just helps you learn more about it. So this, I mean, the site still needs some work, but you can see it just uses things like forums and assignments and investigating different websites and videos, although it is a YouTube video, so it's not 0 rated, to understand the sustainable development goals. So I hope you'll consider it. I hope it makes your experience with online learning a little bit easier.